Our clothes, as a mirror, reflect the history of civilization. It is more than second layer, as nowadays fashion and style became the way of self-expression, seeing deep symbolism in surrounding material things. Speaking via things and rituals is absolutely in Kazakh style. That is why the history of national costume is an incredible world exposing our mentality.
Today in the program, quiver with arrows is a sign of love. Da Vinci against the steppe horseman. Why do we need epaulets? From the battlefield to the fashion show, that is how we can characterize the appearance of military-style clothes on the world's catwalks and, as a consequence, in the wardrobes of fashionistas. Last season, almost every fashionista, fashion lover obsessed with trends, had a jacket decorated with embossments, epaulets, and other patches. However, is this clothing item fashion-forward? Of course not. Like many other attributes of the military costume we wear today, without even knowing that they have hundreds or even thousands of years of history. More about this in today's issue of Oriental Vintage. You will be surprised when you learn that a lot of our clothing pieces used to be part of the military garment. The ammunition of a warrior of the Great Steppe or soldier of an ancient civilization was functionally no less important than his dress or everyday clothes. Warriors always had to be ready for the battle and fight to protect their territories and independence. We have already started talking about military-style jacket. It is also called the Guards of Hussars uniform, the jockey or Hungarian jacket, name taken from the place of popularization. It is worn with chevrons and without, with embroidery on lapels and textured buttons. However, in our opinion, the most interesting element of this jacket is the epaulets. Not everyone knows that the attribute was originally created not for the distinction of military ranks, but for a specific practical purpose.
Эполеты сами, вероятнее всего,
Epaulets most likely evolved from leather shoulder pads.
наплечников.
Epaulets are shoulder pads.
Называется. Подплечники, как бы, да? Наплечники. Функционально, опять же.
Their functionality was that if a warrior had sloping shoulders, even if he was strong, he could not carry a bow.
Хватает плеч для того, чтобы носить лук, перекидывать через плечо.
As quivers slid off his shoulders, even a broad-shouldered warrior was in need of shoulder pads to lift the shoulder slightly upward so that his weapons and ammunition did not fall or slip.
В одежде продлить, немножко задрать плечо вверх.
Once epaulets were invented to fixate a quiver with arrows, then accordingly, it is the invention of archers. The question is, where were such resourceful archers from? Alas, there is no definitive answer. At the same time, it is undeniable that nomadic civilizations were one of the first to come up with the structure of composite bow.
Единственное, что могу сказать, уверенно, что это собственно.
The only thing I can say confidently is that complex bow is steppe nomadic product.
Вот его, кстати, российский ученый
By the way, Russian scientist Akladnikov once discovered it in the Baikal region. The most ancient find refers to the 2nd millennium BC. Since that time, complex bow was one of the elements in military affairs. It existed until the 19th century.
просуществовал аж до 19 века.
For nomads, bow has always been a special kind of weapon. Among the so-called bieskaru, a complex of 5 weapons of the steppe man. It was the only one that allowed to fight at a distance. It is no wonder that children would train marksmanship from a very young age. In addition, a good bow was estimated at a cost of 5 to 10 horses. That is, a whole fortune. Robin Hood himself would envy the quality of nomadic bows. Unlike English analogues made of simple wood, the armament of steppe warriors was made of horns, tendons, leather, or deciduous trees. The technique of fighting always honed and evolved.
когда вы вставляете стрелу, прикладываете к луку, по этой же,
When putting an arrow to a bow, on the one side there was a bow, and on the other side it was very convenient to press fingers so that an arrow does not take it away to the side.
конечно, очень удобно было на
This way, an arrow was fixed between the bow and finger, and it was very convenient.
пальцем. Это было очень удобно, как бы это же
This ensured greater accuracy and rate of fire.
и скорострельность.
This technique of bow tension was accompanied by mechanical hand injuries. The decision that archers took centuries ago inspires jewelry designers today.
Для натяжки лука часто
Wooden or stone rings were used in order not to injure fingers when stretching complex bows.
чтобы не сорвать кожу, не повредить пальцы.
I guess even from the Misalas when the first bows appeared came the need for the first rings, stone, wooden. And from here it went, rings as decorations, rings as a social significance in society.
Как украшение.
It should be noted that archers wear rings on their thumb. Is this not recent years' trend among jewelry lovers? In addition to echoes in modern fashion, traditions and rites of archers are reflected in symbolism, moreover, in very romantic one.
Интересные сведения приводит Геродот. Например, он приводит такую
Herodotus gives an interesting information. For example, he gives such a story.
скифу приглянулась какая-то же.
If a Scythian likes a woman and he wants to show his respect to her, he leaves his quiver of arrows hanging on her door.
У нее на дверях. Если колчан
If the quiver is inside, then a woman is also interested in him.
какое-то расположение. Если колчан остается висеть снаружи,
If the quiver remains hanging outside, then he is rejected. Quiver with arrows. Whose attribute is this? Do you remember the heart pierced with an arrow? It is a sign of love. That is, where all these symbols originate.
все эти символы.
A very lyrical explanation of why Cupid is represented in the image of an archer. But unlike the fictional winged baby on the cloud, a real warrior on the battlefield needed comfortable and practical clothes.
Воинское облачение, первое его
The first meaning and function of a warrior's attire is to protect him from blows.
защищать, предохранять от ударов, быть защитой, с одной стороны, а
And on the other hand, to allow him to attack.
позволять наносить удары, то есть атаковать. Поэтому воинская одежда
Therefore, military clothing reflects the history of military technology development.
как бы историю развития военных технологий.
Another detail that we got from fearless ancestors is almost invisible in clothes, but very functional. What unites a fur coat, a skirt, and a jacket? The presence of a slot, a cut processed in a special way for comfort, freedom of movement, or for decorative purposes.
Представляете, это все для удобства ношения оружия.
Imagine, this is all for the convenience of carrying weapons and riding. Here we have practical significance. Try to sit in a fur coat or a coat with no real slots.
Просто
It will go up to your shoulders. Or carry a weapon to avoid hindering the costume, hanging down quietly. There were 2 slots on the side where a sword or sheath comfortably hung.
спокойно висело.
On one of our previous programs, we told about the fact that weapons and other items necessary for the warrior, for example, steel, purse, or battle axe, were fastened to his belt. It is functional, and men always attach great importance to the belt because it is a symbol of masculinity. It should be noted that, according to experts, during the confirmation ceremony, Han was not only raised on white felt, but also griddled, which meant willingness to serve.
Вот у русского народа есть приговор, когда начинает
Russians have a saying, start doing something by rolling up your sleeves, and Kazakhs start their work girded. Belin buep kristi, bel buu. Let us look at the medieval miniatures of Central Asian rulers, including Timur.
Вот Тимур в одной миниатюре едет верхом впереди,
Timur in one miniature riding on horseback ahead.
не опоясан, а вся
His robe is unbuttoned, not girded, but all the people around him are girded. Here is a symbol of the belt.
вот он, символ пояса.
Let us, however, return to the present. The show of the Spring-Summer 2013 collection of BCBG Max Azira. made a furor in the fashion world. Critics predicted an incredible popularity for the new accessory on the models. It was a sword belt that, for the sake of justice, first appeared on the catwalks 2 years earlier during the Defile of Hermes models during the period when Jean-Paul Gaultier was still a creative designer of the brand.
Портупея предназначена для
Sword belts are designed to carry cold steel.
вообще с французского
The word is literally translated from French as wear a sword.
носить меч.
Later, it was also used for carrying firearms. By now, military sword belts have changed, but the attribute is still held on the shoulders of a service shoulder strap that fastens over the belt. Previously, sword belts were modeled so that scabbards for cleaver and bonnets could be attached to it. However, fashion industry has different priorities.
В прошлом использовались натуральные.
In the past, natural animal skin was used.
Сейчас
Nowadays, we have a lot of choice in the market.
разновидностей.
Thus, different materials such as natural leather, leatherettes, as well as fabrics used for sword belt manufacture. According to experts, the world trend is only gaining popularity in Kazakhstan. Mostly young women who want to emphasize the independence and strength of their character order sword belts. Such women are not afraid of experiments. Well, in the fashion world, epitage has long become one of the ways of self-expression.
Зимой у нас сверх пальто.
Some people wear them over coats and jackets in winter. Looks very refreshing. It is an actual trend because each time the sword belt is modified. Something comes into fashion, something comes out. Now, designers are actively using leather sword belts in their collections. However, experts suggest that in order not to look too grotesque in this provocative outfit, one should still adhere to certain rules. The principle of the outstanding architect, Mies van der Rohe, less is more, is perfect in this case.
Правильно носить с
It is to be worn with strict dresses, with no decor.
платьями, как бы без декора. Рубашками
Could be worn as an accessory with shirts, turtlenecks, and overcoats.
в качестве модного аксессуара. А с чем не стоит
It
носить?
should not be worn with complex styles or combined with other accessories.
И сложными фасонами.
I wear a sword belt in everyday life. I wear it with evening dresses. People get interested. Sometimes I even get more orders when I wear a sword belt myself. The bonus for non-trivial accessory fans is that the sword belt has ceased to be a commodity of exclusivity luxury brands. Today, this accessory can be found on the shelves of the mass market at affordable prices, as well as another invention of our nomadic ancestors, which is actively used by both men and women.
Каблук как
Heels certainly had a functional significance. For a person on foot, it was very uncomfortable.
одежды, безусловно, имел
Therefore, only horse riders needed heeled shoes in order to hold on tight in the stirrups. On that, the leg does not fall forward in the stirrups when stopping or when slowing down horse run. It can be confidently said that this shoe element first appeared in the nomadic culture and was invented by them. Experts' hypothesis that the heel appeared after the invention of the stirrup is reasonable. It is worth recalling that the first traces of horse domestication were found on the territory of modern Kazakhstan, near Buta village, and the finds themselves comprise more than 5,500 years.
Я думаю, что это появилось еще в Догунский.
I think that it appeared in the pre-Huns period.
Стремени обеспечило
It was the invention of the stirrup that ensured unconditional military superiority, as it increased both the speed of the movement of military force and, most importantly, ensured a more confident shooting on horseback, ensured better rate of fire and aiming. Thus, heels certainly appeared in nomadic culture. Information found in the modern sources on this issue is contradictory. There is a theory that the high heel was in fact invented by Leonardo da Vinci, who, as usual, was ahead of his time. However, there is no actual confirmation of this. Experts believe that it is possible that the Italian artist introduced everyday shoes with heels without a bootleg, but calling him the creator of the attribute would be an exaggeration.
Настоящий каблук самый прочный, самый.
The real heel is the most durable, the most resistant, and the most reliable.
Но это слоеный каблук.
Maybe not the lightest, but it's a layered heel of puff leather.
Здесь мы должны сказать, что
Here, we must say that the farmer, in agricultural crops, there is no such high technological level of leather treatment.
нет такого высокого технологического уровня обработки кожи. Ведь
Because farmers work more with wood, stone, and metal, but organic materials are in abundance only in cattle breeding civilizations.
но органика, как бы органические материалы, они
Because it is inconceivable that a nomad would walk in bast shoes, in shoes made from bark of a tree. Firstly, there were no trees, and secondly, it was completely unfit for riding. Continuing the theme of riding, it should be noted that leather shoes with a high boot leg was also most likely first used by nomads. Otherwise, any journey in the saddle would cause considerable inconvenience to the rider.
А скакать в сапоге на босу ногу, понимание о том, что это
Horse riding in boots barefoot was just unbearable, so it was necessary to have another layer, soft, tender, and strong enough to protect.
слой между телом, причем слой мягкий, нежный и достаточно прочный, чтобы защищать.
Kazakhs call this invention baypak. Its world analogs are stockings and socks, which, by the way, also returned to fashion in the past seasons. We described this in detail in past programs. In general, one should not underestimate the importance of ammunition and weapons for the steppe. One of the Kazakh proverbs say, the most important thing in a plate is food. The most important thing for Jigit, young man, is his weapon.
Оружие – это не просто атрибут.
Weapons are not just an attribute of warfare. The weapon for the steppe man is a spiritual object, his friend.
Он твой товарищ. В некоторых сказках даже душа.
In some tales, even the soul of Batir is in his arms.
Конечно же, да, при больших
And of course, during big toys celebrations, council weapons was left outside. But as a symbol of a free man, as a symbol of a warrior, several arrows were allowed to be fastened to the belt.
несколько стрел разрешалось приторочить там к поясу обязательно. Но если на общий совет,
If a man appeared at general council outside the house without a weapon, he was shamed. Firstly, he did not have a right to vote. Secondly, younger men were allowed not to give away their seats.
о ужас, могли не уступать тебе место.
Interestingly, the so-called military style in civilian clothes was formed after the end of the First World War. In connection with the deficit of clothes, it was necessary to alter the service form of the soldiers. People gave a new look at the phenomenon in the 60 years of the last century. Perhaps wearing camouflage, the youth protested military conflicts or simply expressed themselves. Nevertheless, today there are several directions of this style, including high military, that is masterpieces from haute couture. Well-known beauties and style icons, famous artists and Hollywood actresses flaunt in these outfits. It should be agreed that it is nice to realize that partially these outfits were created long ago in the Great Steppe by our nomadic ancestors.